Well, here we are, everyone, in the final week of Alien RPG. Well, Stella, I'm very happy to have earned that sentiment, and I'll continue to do so. Um, I appreciate it, and you've been very kind and generous with those here tonight. Although, if your old DM ever screwed you over, I'm not him. I'll only claim the good stuff. But thank you for the sentiment and for those gift subs, Stella. That does mean a lot to me and for sure the people who receive those. And as well, for all of you who do gift a sub or get a sub, that actually goes to our monthly giveaway of boxes of minis. So the more of you that do subscribe or receive a gift subscription, which does include the Amazon Prime subscription, the more subscriptions there are, the more boxes I can get out to you all as a sign of appreciation and to give back. So, thank you. So where we had left off, we approached the game, we went over the basic rules. Then that was week 1. In week 2, we made characters. We made 4 characters from scratch. And look, Alien RPG, I think there's a 2-page variant. The core mechanics, this is it. It's a one-page character. You don't need to be super fancy with things here. So we made characters. Of course, we went over character creation. And we didn't get into NPCs, but NPC creation is character creation just for a different purpose. And it does have its own section here on 214. If any of you have the book, or if you have your own PDF, maybe you went to like DriveThruRPG and you picked it up. I'm on 214, but we're quickly skipping over into cinematic and campaign play. Now, these are considerations for your games, and I'm going to review what's in here before we do our own thing, which is going to be a little bit of both. What is cinematic play? Cinematic play would be an equivalent to playing through a module in Dungeons and Dragons. It's a self-contained story, though not all modules have prefabricated characters. Usually cinematic instances in this case would, as a way to control resources and conditions, where it's more like here's the script to an Alien movie, and the players are like sleeving into the actors, into the characters, right? And you are playing with what's given, and hopefully you'll survive to the end of the movie. The iconic stories of the Alien universe are intense, exciting, and deadly. The cat and mouse game between the Xenomorph and the crew of the Nostromo in Alien, the Marines' descent into the hell that once was Hadley's Hope in Aliens, or the last stand of the prisoners on Fiorina 161 in Alien 3. Cinematic play is the game mode used to emulate such stories, creating short, focused, and intense movie-like experiences that the PCs will be lucky to survive. Cinematic play takes some work on the GM's part. You need to read the scenario and prepare handouts, maps, and characters. The payoff, however, will be great, because most of the workload is on the GM and not on the players. Cinematic play is ideal for beginners and introducing someone to the world of role-playing games. Especially because the mechanics to this are pretty easy. It is also ideally suited for convention play and single evening events, as these kind of scenarios can often be played from beginning to end in a single session. We recommend that you play a cinematic scenario before you dive into the campaign game. Cinematic scenarios come with a set of pre-generated characters. Think of these as the roles in a written script. As they are tailor-made for the particular scenario, you can make sure that their backgrounds and agendas fit together with the plot of the scenario. The structure of cinematic scenarios. The first cinematic scenario published for the Alien role-playing game is Chariot of Gods, published separately as part of the boxed starter set. We recommend this as your first major cinematic game, and it introduces the concept very well. For a quick taste of the cinematic experience, you can try out the mini scenario Hope's Last Day on page 368 of this book. Going forward, many more cinematic scenarios will be published, but you might also want to write your own. This way, you can be both the scriptwriter and director of your very own Alien movie and let your friends star in it. This is how to structure a cinematic scenario. And by the way, there is a now 3-part trilogy, which can be played back to back, or you can play them separately as their own thing. It begins with Chariot of the Gods. The second part is called Destroyer of Worlds. And the third part, which came out, I want to say just a couple months ago, is called Heart of Darkness. The Prologue. Introduction for the players to be read aloud by the GM. Sets the stage for how the scenario sets the stage for the scenario and makes sure that the players know enough to get along, to get going. Getting along is a suggestion, but it's not always the rule in a game of Alien RPG. The situation, what's really going on. The purpose here is to provide the GM with a concise overview of what is happening behind the scenes of the scenario. The characters, the locations, acts and events. A cinematic scenario is divided into 3 acts, each described briefly according to the following structure. Act 1, the setup. PCs and NPCs are introduced, conflicts are established. Act 2, the tilt. Something unexpected happens, raising the stakes and the level of danger. Secrets are revealed. Act 3, the showdown. The story comes to a climactic resolution depending on the actions of the PCs. Each act has a number of possible events. Some of these events could be mandatory, but most should be optional. Used or not used depending on the actions taken by the PCs. These events should also generally be standalone, not connected in a predetermined narrative. Some events affect all PCs. Others are aimed at specific individuals. Some events can even change a PC's personal agenda. If you go, event, why is that capitalized? If you buy the cinematic scenarios, within the act, you have these like references for the scenarios for the events that can occur during it. And once maybe 3 of the 5, 3 of the 7, who knows, 2 of the 4 are resolved, then Act 2, whatever sequence that would begin Act 2 will enact Act 2. The old events cycle out, and a new wave of events with which to interact will be open. Epilogue, a suggested sign-off message by one of the PCs, assuming anyone is still alive. The player of this PC can read the message aloud or adapt it according to what happened in the scenario. DQ says, I always remind players to play along with the genre. These aren't dungeon crawlers, these are truckers wandering their familiar ship. Safety in numbers doesn't make sense until a huge threat occurs. Stella says, if you ever played with Gary G, he would always play behind a screen. Yeah. Yep. So the DM screen was more than just a little piece of cardboard. It was an actual removal from the table to be this this voice of God, right? Now, a point here. Don't stop it, PDF. Don't ignore these sidebars. It's simply a different kind of formatting, but it's still making a point. It'll just help it pop against this other point here. Agendas and story points. At the end of each act, you should determine whether or not each player followed their PC's personal agenda. If you determine that they have advanced their agenda in spite of personal risk or significant sacrifice, announce this and award them 1 story point. Do not explain why. Their agendas should remain hidden until the end of the scenario. So it's a bit of a more stake raising, as well as an internal conflict for all the players to enjoy and resolve. Now, what about campaign play? And you might notice it has a different symbol here, as there are some different considerations between cinematic play and campaign play. Oh, you had a friend who got to play with him. Well, that's cool. And your buddy who played with Gary was also a mini painter? Or are you referring to Gary's ability to paint miniatures? I'm sorry, I might have lost what you meant by that, Stella. There is more to the Alien universe than meets the eye. The movies, books, and comics barely scratch the surface. You and your players can go deeper than that in campaign play. This game mode is meant to be played for a longer period of time, at least 5 to 6 game sessions, and often much more than that. In campaign play, the PCs can roam the star map, take jobs, and go on adventures, all while discovering long-lost secrets, scheming with different factions, and fighting to stay alive. Session 0. We recommend that you begin your campaign with a Session 0 where you as a group create your characters together and decide on which campaign framework you want to play. Space truckers, colonial marines, or frontier colonists. A big part of this session will be discussion amongst the players and you, the GM. Below are some recommended questions to go through and answer together. And this is great prep. This is great stuff for a Session 0. If you're not familiar with what it is, then there's an obvious blurb in this book. I'm not going to read everything out loud to you because I would like you to get it. I'd like you to read through it and consider it. Or there might be many of you out there who are veteran role players, and you're like, Session 0, I got it. I'm good. Goals and rewards. Before you start a new campaign, it's important to give some thought to rewards and goals. Why are the PCs doing what they do, and what are they working towards? The answer to these 2 questions are important because they provide the main motivation for the PCs to go out and explore the universe of Alien. Maybe they are a crew of space truckers plying the lanes on the frontier, taking any job they can so they can afford to lease their own ship. Or why not a group of colonial marshals out to get revenge on a criminal syndicate that killed their colleagues? Another option is a group of enlisted Marines on a tour of duty to be able to afford a cheap room on Anchor Point Station. Goals might change, and probably will, but it's important that players know what their PCs are working towards. Remember, treat the PCs as real people with real dreams. Oh, your buddy was the painter. Well, it sounds like you had some good memories, and with the past tense, I'm sorry that he's no longer with you, Stella. But that's that's why we love these hobbies, right? Because we create memories with friends or people who were strangers and become friends, and we can often learn from or teach skills to others through it. It's a very fine medium for that kind of camaraderie, socialization. whether it's through a sci-fi horror game or it's a traditional level 1, you're the son of the farmer. By level 20, you're overthrowing the pantheon of gods. Sort of a, like a D&D Pathfinder, kind of a, a Glimmering Horizon style fantasy storytelling game. A tip on campaign focus. Again, it's there for you to read and consider. Oh my gosh. Why program? It's not a resource issue for my computer. Why do you do this? Why do? While it is not required, we do recommend that the group starts the campaign in the vicinity of a home base. For a lot of groups, this can simply be their spaceship, which functions as a sort of home away from home. But it makes sense to have a real physical place where they can make connections, get job offers, and relax between missions. Novgorod Station on page 358 is included in this book for this purpose. It is a small outpost on the frontier, perfect as a starting point to explore the universe of Alien. Crawl the stars. A big part of campaign play is traveling across known space and visiting strange worlds and different colonies. Because of this, the PCs typically start with a spaceship. When between jobs, put the star map on the table and let them know what destinations they have to choose from. And I'll get into more detail. Create jobs for them. And again, this is not complex, but it's good to have in reference, especially if maybe this is your first time stepping up and trying to plan a campaign. You're trying to plan an overarching story, and you don't have years of experience of trial and error or buddies who can teach you these things from their own hard-won experience. This book lays out a lot of things very well, and is very well referenced for it too. Stella, I will be me for as long as I can. I assure you that. While I can always be a better person, I will still always be me, even if I am a work in progress. I guess to use miniature painting terms, WIP, W-I-P, a work in progress. And I'm grateful that you and others, there's 34 of you. My gosh, there's 34 of you right now who are watching me teach how to play Alien RPG, and you can't believe how grateful I am. And if you're watching this in the future on YouTube and you've never been by the Twitch channel, well, hello from the past, now the present, but currently the present, now you are past, and you're in our future. We haven't met yet, but hopefully we'll get the chance. But yeah, for all of you out there, I do sincerely appreciate it, and I'll be here as often as possible to earn your viewership, your lurks, your chat comments, and all of that. Anyway, I'm sorry. This is the big note to point out. Xenomorphs in campaign play. A distinct difference between campaign and cinematic play is the role of the xenomorph. In cinematic play, you want to provide the full Alien experience in a compact and accessible package, and the xenomorph is most often a part of this. In campaign play, on the other hand, you will roam the star lanes of known space and take your time doing it. It would not make any sense to encounter a lethal alien during every job the PCs take on. I mean, maybe unless you're a squad of Marines going on bug hunts. Instead, make the most of other enemies, corporate agents, enemy soldiers, assassins, rival crews, rogue androids, critters, and so on. Save the xenomorph for special occasions. While you are, it's the same. It's the same paradox that Dungeons and Dragons faces. There are many people who play Dungeons and Dragons, and they almost never encounter a dragon. Maybe a dungeon, almost never a dragon, despite it being the namesake of the game. Because in D&D, that is the special occasion. That's the coup de grace. Not that a campaign has to have dragons being a rare thing, but in general, dragons are considered not just tough encounters, but venerable creatures to be awed or feared. They are the special, like, you know what? You're finally level 15. You've heard about dragons. Now you just saw one, and you still can't do anything about it. It's that kind of a special place. So in Alien RPG, the xenomorphs are the titular creature. Not that you can't just throw a ton of them at your party all the time, because maybe that is actually that's what you want, and everyone is just having a great time. If you're smiling and laughing, even if your character dies at the end of the night, then congrats, you've won. Because that's the point of getting together with friends and family around a table, telling a story, throwing some dice. But you are urged to keep the xenomorphs as that special occasion. Yep, and thank you for that recommendation, Stella. And I'm glad that I had earned that business. Yep, Rosewolf talking to people in the future on YouTube. Come join our Twitch channel. It's such a fun place to be. Straking Sheep also giving a thumbs up of approval. Australia says, yeah, unless you're playing Dragonlance, there are specialized settings where dragons are more common. And if any of you wanted to explore more alien themes, there's a reading list for you. Alien: The Cold Forge, standalone novel about the secret program to weaponize the xenomorph. Aliens: Bug Hunt by Scott Siegler and others, a collection of short stories focusing on violent encounters with critters and creatures. And there's more as well. So look at that for inspiration to draw upon lore, or create your own. With a lot of video games and such, the concept of an adaptable alien has been played with. You get big old tanky ones that are born from something, or aliens that, kind of like other creatures, adapt to the necessities of the hive depending on what's going on. Thank you for the continued gift sub, Stella. Now you've come this far, and in the end, did it really even matter? Yes. Because if you say, all right, I got it, I get the concept of the framework. How do I go about putting some window dressing? Or maybe I'm not too familiar with alien stuff. Like, do I need to know every term, every ship? Is it like a super, like a rabid fandom or something? It can be as much as you want it to be, or as much as you are. But let the book support you. Let the book give you some easy to consume ideas. Because you might read about the main governments in this system and say, you know what, those are cool ideas, but I'm changing them entirely. I don't want to run factions called the Three World Empire, the United Americas, the Union of Progressive Peoples, or kind of a catch-all independent core system colonies. Or you want to play with only 3 of the 4. And the 4th one, you just say, yeah, let's throw it on to the United Progressive Peoples. Cool. Or you come up with your own faction to go against the others. There is content here which will develop these ideas. You are welcome to and encouraged to modify them. Run your version of this cosmic setting. Do you have to read and memorize all of these notes? No. If you do, can you find inspiration and cool ideas? Absolutely. There are names of leaders. There's little timelines in history. I would absolutely encourage you all to read this for ideas and prompts. Or if you go, you know what? I would actually like to draw inspiration from Deep Space Nine, which is Star Trek. Okay? You can do that. In fact, you can do that probably almost directly. Rip storyline from Deep Space Nine, which, as far as Star Treks go, was a much more political. It was a much more political series with conflict of organizations. Especially, it was more of a Star Trek that was almost from the non-Federation point of view, as you encountered a lot more alien species and not just humans and Vulcans and the more traditional members of the Federation. So I'm not going to read all this, but I'm going to show you it's here, and I'll encourage you to adapt it, read it, or use it absolutely word for word. It is here and it's not moving, and you can reference this. And if you want to fully immerse your players in the French fry basket, if your players are potatoes and you wanna get them cooking, then throw them in this fry basket and absolutely immerse them in the lore with the names. Make these supplements. Speaking of things like Game of Thrones, that's also what this kind of conflict between the socioeconomic empires and colonies are facing. Valendar the Red, my friend, my xenomorph, and my, it has been a year and a half. And there we go. Shoutouts to Valendar the Red. Thank you for coming in with your raid, and thank you for re-upping your subscription, Valendar. I greatly appreciate it. Valendar is actually going to be playing one of the characters in the Alien RPG game presented here on the channel. You sculpted a 4-legged mutant flamingo. And well, I presume because you broadcast that, is that something that you can share on our Discord? I'd love to sneak a peek. Though if there is some sort of proprietary thing, again, your work with the people who commission you or hire your talents, that's first. So Valendar and Raiders, anyone who might have just come in that's new, I'm going over telling a story in Alien RPG, and we're beginning by seeing what is available in the book. If you need to learn the lore or you'd like to learn more, maybe you saw the movies and you went, I always wish that there was some more things to read about. I thought the movies were cool, and I heard there's like a video game too, right? Oh, there's video games plural. There's comics plural. There's some spin-off stuff. There's the 4 main movies, and then there's the 2 prequels. The 2, they're part of it, but they're kind of spin-offs in their own way. But anyway, there's a lot here, and this can help build your comfort level. And the reason for that is the more you're familiar with something, the more you can access it, the more easily you can adapt it to a situation. This is called an availability heuristic. And I'll spell that for you if you want to look up what it is.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Ahoy.
Ahoy, Rum Cask. Thank you also for renewing your subscription. Stella, thank you, my friend, for hanging out. It was good to have you here. I appreciate the sentiment. I'll continue to earn it, and the gift subs that you handed out tonight really went on to make the nights of a lot of other people here in chat. So a cheer to you, my friend. Thank you very much, and we'll see you around here on Twitch and or on Discord. So the more you familiarize with something, the easier it is to reference. This tends to be why human beings are tribalistic in nature. You become comfortable with a group or an idea, and that group or idea then is used as a mirror to reflect everything outside that group or idea, and to make decisions on, is something good or bad. Are they necessarily informed decisions? No, but not all the time do you need an informed decision. We have instincts for a reason. We have a survival mechanic. The availability heuristic is not just a, in the Alien universe, like, all synths are bad because they can turn on you. It's also something you find in nature. Don't eat the brightly colored stuff, because it's poison. You will get poisoned if you eat the bright caterpillars. You will get poisoned if you try to tackle that snake. These are things that are the quick references to try and keep us alive. Now, that's also, as a complete side note, that's also the challenge that we have to overcome as thinking rational people, because rationality and thinking are counteractive to those snap decisions. There were good synths. The one in Isolation as well. So anyway, what this is pointing, and especially if I'm talking to you as someone who has said, well, I've almost always played D&D, or D&D was my first game and I've played it for a couple months, I feel comfortable rolling the D20, I feel comfortable with kind of generic fantasy lore and tropes, because even outside of D&D, if I just say dragon, almost all of you are going to have a similar concept of a dragon in mind. And there's 39 of you now watching. And each of you come from wildly different lifestyles and backgrounds, and you're all makes and models out there. But if I say dragon, then almost all of you might have a set of things that you all have quickly referenced. Whether you play Pathfinder, or you play Castles and Crusades, you play Zweihander, you play Soulbound, you play D&D, you play any of these fantasy games with dragons, even Shadowrun. There's still a lot of very similar qualities that dragons in Shadowrun have. And Shadowrun is sci-fi fantasy because it's kind of a fantasy cyberpunk setting. Awkward Mancer says, as per advice my party got going into the Underdark, don't eat the purple ones. Yes. So if you're approaching a new system, especially as someone who wants to tell a story within it, take some time and read about this stuff. You don't have to memorize it all, but if it's helping to connect some dots up here, it's going to bring about a confidence because you have some quick bookmarks for referencing people, places, and things. For being able to say, yeah, you know what? That actually sounds pretty good. You might be new to the system, but you can be comfortable in your judgment call of saying, I'm going to allow that. I don't know if the rules would, but I'm not worried about the rules. I'm worried about our game together as friends and family. So it's here. There's a ton of beautiful art for you to read and incorporate. You might have a Chinese sea dragon. For what, Awkward Mancer? As a pet? Because if so, I gotta come visit you. So there's a lot here. You're like, oh, it's them. I know that symbol. I've heard this name from the movies. Weyland-Yutani. Which is a company with a very close name to a prominent soy sauce pack manufacturer. If any of you ever get Asian cuisine from your local place, you know, Chinese, Thai, whatever, take a look at who makes your soy sauce packs. And you'll probably see a big WY on them. What started out as a humble sauce maker turned into a galaxy-spanning, terraforming megacorp. But if you want to know, how did this start? Even out of pure curiosity. You saw this in the video games or the comics or the movies. And you want to just learn more because you're curious. Maybe you will never use Weyland-Yutani because you go, no. We're playing Alien RPG, but if I use a xenomorph and I mention Weyland-Yutani, it's too obvious. It's too obvious. I'm better than that. Cool. But still learn about it. Because there might be a corporation that acts similarly, and you can take some of their cool ideas. Or, at the very end of everything, you absolutely avoided dropping Weyland-Yutani. And it's the very end of your campaign. You've been playing for 6 months. You have traveled the stars. You've been bit by stuff. You've been doused by radiation. You've been shot at. And at the very end, the sticker peels off of a supply crate that you took a job after surviving all that, and the sticker falls away, revealing WY. Boom. Thank you, friends, for playing. It was an awesome 6 months. And what are we playing next, crew? And who's gonna GM it? So, governments, corporations. You might remember Seegson if you have played or watched a playthrough of Alien Isolation. In Vampire the Masquerade terms, this would be stuff like the Second Inquisition or Pentex. There's an entire segment here on systems and planets. We're going to have a conversation about workplace safety. Enjoy it. This is beautifully made. There are all kinds of inspiration for you to discover here. As it describes the sections of the galaxy, as it goes into the specifics of what is where. So you can make a broad term. You can just simply say, all right, our game is going to take place in the Outer Veil. There you go. Do you have to mention every specific planet? Can you make up a planet? Absolutely. You put it on the map because ultimately this is your game. So please do not fret. Do not feel like you need to memorize everything. Reference it as needed and draw from it as needed. Okay? I hope you are feeling a lot more comfortable with this system, with the book and the way it's laid out. If you want the TLDR of that entire back part of the book, here you go. Just read these 2 pages on Frontier Life. If you want a tiny bit more, here is a summary of recent events, a timeline of what happened in 2000 going all the way up to 2190. And read the notes. This is an ongoing, by the way, if none of you have read it or picked up on it, this is an ongoing story, even through character creation and such, where you get to meet the crew. So this is all stuff in the front. You might have been here for that workshop when we went over this. I'm only bringing it in wrap up. I'm not going to read this off to you, but know that it is... Sorry, everyone. It's all here for you. And I was trying to get to the index. There's the stars. Everything is mentioned in the index. And oh yeah, that's the ship character sheet. So you don't even need this, but it can be a two-parter here. Ah, this was it. I just had to go more to the front than the front. Everything is laid out in this book. If any of you looked at the player's handbook or the DMG and you go, why is this laid out like it is? Why does it refer to things in a bit of a discombobulated way? Everything is laid out for you here. The art matches. Every rule has its own section on a page to make it easier to find and to exclude it from others so that it does not become a word salad for you. So I cannot extol the virtues of this kind of a layout for a role-playing book more. Beautiful, consistent art It is relevant to what is going on the page. And the way that everything is laid out makes referencing what you need to reference easy. So if you are a GM, a game mother in the terminology of this system, and you go, oh, what does the UPP stand for? Right here, governments and corporations. The Union of Progressive Peoples. And it's on 229. And if there is something mentioned from a different section of the book, it will, I believe always, provide a page reference. So the concept of stealth has its own section. If stealth is referenced in another set of rules, it will tell you, like as per stealth on page whatever, right? Thank you. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Now, I am not going to get into... I'm not going to get into the aliens. Like, this would be kind of like the bestiary. But there is one last section I want to feature to you all. As I am mercilessly shilling this book to you all. You can say I'm invested because, hey, I do sell it. If you don't have a friendly local game store, or you do, but they haven't earned your business for some reason, I know a guy who can get this book in your hands. I'd love to have the opportunity, but if you can support a small business near you, and they have earned your business, talk to whoever makes the orders, or just whoever's behind the counter and can pass it on. If they don't carry it, ask them to carry. They might have you prepay it. I think it's a $55 book. Might be less or more depending on anything going on at your local store. You're going to get a lot out of this book. Or if you don't want the full rule book with everything like that, you get a basic rule book with the $50 starter. You also get some dice and things too. Hi Tony, welcome back. In campaign setting here, what do the player characters do? Where do they go? Just what is out there? This chapter provides the tools to help a GM develop a framework for creating a campaign, as well as colony worlds and other adventure destinations. Though, you know what? I'll tell you what. It's been almost an hour in this section. Why don't we get up and take a little stretch break, everyone? Let's take a little break, refresh ourselves, and we'll come back, and I'll go over this part of the workshop about what the book can teach you about writing content from its own self, from its own book. What can you learn from scratch from the rule book without it being convoluted? And we'll hold your hand through the process of making your own original Alien RPG story. So Tony, you just joined us here, but let's take a quick little break. We'll be back soon, everyone. So listen for my voice. I'll tell you all when we're coming back as I'm getting ready to go live again. I'm gonna get up and stretch and refresh myself. So I'll see you soon, everyone.